You play golf, dude?
Big golfer.
What gave it away?
He's got a golf bobblehead.
Brock got that for me, actually.
What's your handicap?
I'm like 10 or 12. I'm right around there. I can go up to a 14 if I don't play for a while, but I can also like shoot under 80 if I'm like playing consistently.
I didn't know what any of that meant.
You're listening to Studio 22.
Welcome to Studio 22 Podcast. I'm Will Meldman here with Brock O'Hearn, as always, with bright blue eyes. We are joined by actor, comedian, writer, director, Kevin McNamara, and we are excited to dive in.
Well, I love when people see us and we're tall and, relatively good looking and, the whole thing. And then we're like, yeah, never, my dad was really real piece of shit. And they're like, oh, is your life hard? Relax, man. I'm trying to be vulnerable right now. Oh, are you tall and handsome? Fuck you. I'm like, all right, man. Yeah. Well, I'll just go fuck myself, I guess.
Who needs feelings anyways?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. But being a stand-up comic, it's kind of like, people don't. You get on stage and people see, like when I get on stage, the very first thing I have to do is say something self-deprecating because I have to, I have to acknowledge the thought in the room, which is like, oh, look at this fucking douchebag.
Right, what's that called? Like a de-escalation or like a, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Disarming.
Yeah. I have to be more charming than most other comics because it's like, oh, tell me about your problems, pretty boy. I'm like, actually, never met my dad. Grew up in the projects. They're like, oh, okay.
It really comes down to how much time do you have?
Yeah.
I have to do the same thing. Obviously, not a comic, but I've done that my whole life too. Because I got tall very quick in high school. I was already 6'5" by the time I graduated. So I've always kind of like, until past couple years, but I've kind of like stood with my legs spread apart a little bit. So I'm a little bit shorter. I've kind of brought myself down. I didn't stand tall. I would say things that are self-deprecating and kind of just make everyone else around you feel more comfortable for whatever reason that or however you can do that.
Yeah.
And it's just so that people will be normal around you, be comfortable. Because I found that, I don't know what it is, man, but it's going to sound this is a douchebag thing to say, I think, but I feel like I have, just by existing at times, it brings out people's insecurities and then they project them onto you. And then you're like, oh, sick. So you hate me because I got long hair, or you hate me because you think I have a great life, or you hate me because like whatever the thing, you think I get more chicks than you, like whatever the thing is. Right. So you got to kind of just be like, dude, yes, I'm grateful that I'm tall and I got hair and all this shit. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. I'm not going to complain about it. But at the same time, I had some fucked up shit happen.
Yeah.
Life happens to all of us.
I actually love it when people assume that my life is so easy and great because as a stand-up comic, and most stand-up comics will tell you this, like, no matter how much you hate me, you will never hate me as much as I hate myself.
Right.
Like, I look in the mirror every day and I'm just like, fuck again. I woke up. God damn it, man. Can I have sleep apnea. Can I just eventually just not breathe or something? And people are like, oh, your life seems so good. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not going to whine about it, but also like kind of fuck me, So people always assume that especially with social media, right? Because we're all, especially in your case, in my case, people that live normal lives, like some guy in Missouri, who wakes up every day and goes to work and welds in the cold and all kinds of shit.
Yep.
He sees us doing cool shit and he's like, oh man, those guys have it. Those guys have the life. Those guys' lives are easy. But none of us are really portraying what our lives really are. Like, I don't go on my Instagram and post a picture of me by myself eating a pizza, like thinking about how lonely I am. I go on there and I post the good times where I'm like, I'm out riding motorcycles, or I'm shooting at Terran Tactical. My life is awesome. And then I go home alone and I just sit at home and write for 14 hours. There
are definitely some kind of like, deep rooted psychological principles on masculinity there for sure. And in society as a whole, right? That everyone kind of either projects or feels or tries to understand. There's a lot to it, I think. Right. And I mean, there's some crazy statistics out there too, just with masculinity in men in society right now that are pretty frightening when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, no, I totally agree. It's crazy. I'm single, 33, trying to figure that part out, and it's not easy, especially in a place like LA.
Well, yeah, and I think especially with the current climate, when you have terms that get thrown around like toxic masculinity.
Sure.
Sure, there are aspects of being a man in society that people could deem toxic, right? But the idea of masculinity in and of itself being toxic is such a dangerous idea.
Yeah.
Because you have to have aspects of masculinity in society for things not to break down. You have you have to have protectors. You have to have rules. You have to have law and order. And all of those things are maintained by a certain aspect of masculinity. If it's when you get into men just genuinely being bad because they're men, then you set up a society where kind of where we're at now, where you have men that are afraid to be men and do man things, and you have situations like we have now where, men aren't going into the trades anymore. And you're finding that nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work hard. Everybody wants to be an influencer or a YouTuber or all these other things. And the ideal of a man that goes out and works and brings home a good living and protects is kind of fallen by the wayside. I think it's really dangerous for society. Yeah,
I mean, especially too, you kind of look at all these DEI initiatives as well, and it's like, where is all that in those hard jobs like construction or plumbing, like things that are 95% male driven, right? There is none, right? It's only jobs that have influence or power or some sort of notoriety attached to them. But yeah, it's typically men that do it. And because we can, typically handle it and sack up and get the job done.
Yeah, and I saw something recently, some stats on because it was all about toxic masculinity, and of course it could all be wrong. I don't know if these stats are true or not or whatever, but it said 43% of boys are raised by a single mother, and then 90% of teachers are female. And so they said, is it really a toxic masculinity problem or a lack of masculine influence in somebody's life, right? Because there's 2 out of 3 of us right here, right, that grew up without a dad, right? To a degree. I don't know if you have a stepfather or something like that. But
I had a stepdad, but he was a
just added
abusive alcoholic.
Yeah, sick. There you go.
Fuel to the fire.
Exactly. I know it too well, man. But it makes you think, right? Like, I'm so grateful for my mom and the role. What was that? But the role that she took on, raising 5 kids by herself and doing it, cleaning houses, man. Like, I can't even imagine putting food on the table for 5 kids, let alone doing it with by yourself, but for me, it gave me more empathy for her, for women, for my sisters, for seeing the way that men treated them, seeing the way, and so I think it's a blessing in my sense, but at the same time, exactly at the point where, like, what did I become? Like, I wanted to be the biggest guy in the room. I wanted to be Conan, Hercules, or whatever, like on TV and film. The stuff that I looked up to were those men that were, leaders or changed history, that their name was remembered for all of time. There's an element of that in me of like, I wanted to become the man that I never had in my life,
Right. Well, if you think about it too, if you really think about the situation, if you have that amount of broken homes, right? And you don't have a masculine energy in the house. At some point when you're a young man and you're going through puberty, you get to a point where you start having this abundance of testosterone. And if you don't have somebody in the house to direct that, and show you how to use that to be masculine, but also how to control your temper, how to control those urges, how to control those things. And somebody who has experiences with dealing with that amount of testosterone and dealing with that time in life, then you're basically putting a pit bull out into the world, and you're saying, hey, be nice to everybody, but we're not going to give you any tools of how to be nice.
Right.
So the issue is when you have these homes that don't have a masculine energy in the house, and you're asking a mother to control and contain that masculine energy when she has no idea what it is like to feel that way. Her first instinct is to go, well, masculinity is bad.
Right.
Right. And testosterone and is bad. So control all that and just push all that down. Well, you can only do that for so long before your natural impulses start to show.
Yep.
And that's where you get all of these angry kids coming from. That's where you get all these angry men that have pushed it down and pushed it down and pushed down their emotions and pushed down their thoughts and pushed down their feelings until they explode and they become toxic because they don't know how any other way to deal with it.
Yeah, and every statistic out there supports everything you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And, it's 100%. It's kind of resorting back to survival instincts with a chemical imbalance, like you said, right? Yeah, I don't know where we're heading with that and how we're going to fix that or address that, but I think culture has a huge part to play in it. I think culture is like more important than a lot of people even realize or give it credit for. Culture being, media, films, television. A lot of people raised by movies and TV, right? Like parent just puts them in front of the TV and they get their favorite shows. And yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, also too, like I was talking about this with a couple of friends about, when you grew up in the 90s, 80s, 90s, you look at these action heroes, right? And it's all about being masculine. It's all about that. And then it's shifted over time, right? But
yeah,
there hasn't been a time until I feel like now it's coming more into light where you can have a man who's masculine who can also talk about his shit.
Right.
And that gives guys, the rest of us, permission to go talk about that, to be vulnerable, and to talk about shit that we've been bottling up our whole life. We've been trying to figure out, I'm still figuring shit out, dude, from my past, and I might continue for the rest of my life. I don't know. But at the same time, like having a space where guys can just be guys and talk about their stuff. And yeah, we can make fun of each other and we can, joke about stuff, or we can sit down and actually really dive into what the problem is. And chances are, we're sitting here that we probably have all been through something pretty similar that, we could help each other through, if we were just open enough to have that conversation. And I think it's moments like this where men are talking about it and saying, look, dude, I can still be a dude and tell you that I cried last week because of XYZ or whatever, or something I remember from what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're kind of a bitch though, right?
Yeah. Say it again. Say it again.
Nothing. I said, check out these crystals, man. They're fucking cool.
Energy crystals.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Very LA of you.
What did you put in those things?
No, man. You know what's interesting is like, I'm blessed because I have an outlet in stand-up. So I can get on stage and I can just kind of lay my shit bare. And I'm probably more honest on stage than I should be. But everything I talk about, like when I hate when comics will tell a joke and they'll be like, that's not really how I feel. It's like, yeah, you kind of do.
Right.
You're trying to address it in a comedic way, but at the same time, it's still, if you came up with it and you thought of it and it's important enough for you to go out and do on stage, it's kind of the way you think.
Yeah.
And that's okay if you're honest about it. Everything that I talk about on stage, I'm honest about it. There's genuinely things that affect me, that aggravate me, that do make me laugh, that's very important to me. They're all things that I talk about. I wouldn't get on stage and talk about something that's not important to me, but I can get on stage and I can lay all those emotions out there in a way that people can relate to it and people can laugh about it. And if you can find a way to laugh at yourself, life is so much easier.
Yeah.
Like, I can talk about my stepdad kicking the shit out of me, And I can talk about it in a way that other people that have experienced that can go, oh, fuck, man. Yeah, my stepdad hit me with a Tonka truck. And you're like, oh, yeah, see, it hurt, right? You know, it's like,
mine hit me with a real truck.
yeah, it's like, but if you can laugh about those traumas, then you can deal with them. It's the people that just don't deal with their shit that end up, you know, shooting up schools and, you know, and being these quote unquote toxically masculine, you know, individuals that you see.
You mentioned the word outlet, right? And I'm thinking back, like, I had an older brother. All my friends and I played sports, right? Like, we would literally go to the park every day after school if we didn't have like lacrosse practice or whatever, and play tackle football on the grass. And when you're a kid, you're like indestructible, so you can like lay each other out. But that's like masculine energy being an outlet, right? Because then we go home, we're tired, we're chill, whatever, and like we got all our energy out and all that. I think whether it's comedy or sports or whatever, I think those outlets are super important, and like we really need to focus on those. And another thing that kind of reminded me of that was Bill Burr always talks about like his anger stuff, right?
Love Bill.
And you're like sitting there and you're like, he probably honestly has some anger stuff he's dealing with, but he's able, like you said, to express it in a way where you're kind of on the journey with him, right? Would you say that's a good example of like someone who maybe has some
Bill definitely has some anger issues down underneath. Yeah, but that's the thing that makes Bill great, is that he's honest about it.
Right.
You know, he admits I have a temper issue, and every once in a while I spaz out and I lose it. But that's what ingratiates you to guys like Bill. You know, it's like, when you think about the great comics, you know, you talk about Pryor.
Oh yeah.
The guy gets on stage and admits to smoking crack and setting himself on fire.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't talk about that unless you have dealt with your shit and you know who you are, right? And in doing so, he gives other people the ability to go, oh, well, fucking Richard Pryor can smoke crack and still be famous and get his shit together. I can smoke. I'm a crackhead, but I can probably figure it out, you know? Yeah. So you don't really know. The great thing about comedy or any kind of media in general is you don't really know who you're touching, and you don't know how you're affecting them, but you're affecting them, right? So it's that ability to just reach out on a human level to other people and give them the ability to see things differently than they see it in their life that makes it worthwhile. That's why I love filmmaking. That's why I'm a filmmaker.
Right.
I love affecting people.
And that's kind of what I was getting at with the importance of culture, right? Like, you really do reach people and affect people with it. And I think it's now like more important than ever. Like, you know, Rogan the other day was saying how comedy is kind of the last stand, like the last bastion of freedom we have right now in culture, because now comedians are kind of like rebels again, right? With all these censorship things going on at all the big tech companies and all that, right? It's like stand-up comedy is a safe space to do that in culture.
It is, but I got to be honest, I don't think that's the last bastion. Because if you look at filmmaking in the past, even independent filmmaking, you still kind of needed the studio influence, right? Nowadays, with the avenues that you have, you don't need the studio. You don't need 20 people saying, okay, well, this idea will work and you can do this and you can do that. If you look at the most recent film, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
If you look at that, for instance, that was a film that they had been pitching, and every studio was like, we're not touching it. So they went out and they crowdsourced and they got the money to shoot it, and they put it out, even though nobody would put it out. They found a way to get it out there, and they got their message across. And then it became this huge talking point, and it's moved the needle. Is it as easy as stand-up? No, because you can get on stage and say whatever the hell you want. Doesn't mean everybody's going to see it. But if you're willing to put the work in and find an avenue, I think that any source of media is applicable. You just have to be willing, number one, to take the risk, and number two, to put the work in.
Totally agree. Right. I completely agree. And even on YouTube, right? You see these YouTube channels that are getting big politicians on to come speak. Like Vivek just went on Friday Night Tights the other week, right? And Benny Johnson is essentially like the new Fox News, right? Like there's so many different ways to do it. So I agree there. There are more outlets and but that's like culture, the beauty of culture as a whole, right? Like it could be in many different places.
Yeah, I mean, even on that point too, like it's become a thing for a presidential candidate to do podcasts.
Yeah.
Because of the influence and reach that it has, right? The conversations that get to be had, and the rawness and realness, where it's not like you throw it up on a media station and then it's edited down to whatever they want it to be, essentially, or cutting you off. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said with that. It's exactly what you're saying with artists, like it's our expression, our story. That's the whole point of making films, is storytelling, right? What story do you have to tell, and do you have the courage to go do it? And it's not easy, no matter what scale you're on, but you find a way. If you really want something, you find a way. And that's honestly, I got to see your film Topper, man, and that's what I got to experience, man. You did something really special with that, and it invoked emotion in me the whole time. I felt something the entire time I was in it, dude, and I was like, my hat is off to you on that, man. I want to know more about that, how long it took you to develop it, to write it, to why you chose that story, like what was it about that you wanted to tell that story?
Thanks. That means a lot. But before I get into that, one last point that I wanted to make when we were talking about, these forms of media, and specifically politicians coming onto these podcasts. What I love about podcasts, and what I think is important about podcasts, is especially long form podcasts, is when you have a guest on, like a politician, right? And you do Rogan, it's 3.5 hours, right? You can't keep your charade up for that long.
Yeah.
Eventually the audience is going to see who you really are. You're going to slip up, because politicians are good at faking for 3-minute press conferences, or 5-minute press conferences, or 15-minute sound bites. But in 3.5 hours, you're going to let slip who you really are. And I think it's what's important with podcasts. I think it's what's important with Rogan. I don't always agree with what Rogan has to say, and I don't think anybody should.
Right.
But when you get somebody on like Robert Kennedy Jr., and he gets on there and he's rah, I'm Mr. Freedom, I'm Mr. this, I'm Mr. that. You get him on for 3.5 hours and you start to go, oh, you are, to a point.
Yep.
But you're not everything that you're saying that you are. So I think those long form podcasts are important. I think it's important to really get an idea of who somebody is. Let all that bullshit fall away.
No teleprompter.
Yeah. Yeah. And Joe isn't afraid to ask questions, the big questions. I think that's important, because what I will say about Joe and his podcast is it's not an echo chamber. He asks questions from both sides.
Yeah.
He doesn't just want he's not giving you talking points.
Right.
I love that. I think that's important.
Yeah. It gets an objective view of any topic, right? You get to see both sides and make up your own decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't, most of these interviews that you see these guys doing on TV, their handlers have given the interviewer a list of questions they're allowed to ask.
Yeah. Look at Tucker Carlson, right?
Yeah.
Like he was really limited at Fox with what he could cover. And then he eventually got fired for it. And now he's doing hour-long segments like every other day on Twitter, right? And it's like, he's been unleashed. He's like,
and he gets 20 times the views.
Oh, hundreds of millions. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So crazy.
It's crazy. He's averaging like 1.5 million on Fox, and then he goes on Twitter. It's like
it's insane.
20 million.
Yeah.
It's bonkers.
Independent media though.
Yeah. And independent filmmaking.
Yeah.
Going back to Topper. Topper was a very important story to me because for two reasons. Number one, it's semi-autobiographical. A lot of the things in that film happened to me. So it was important for me to tell that story for anybody that's experienced that, such as yourself, somebody that's experienced abuse, experienced, doubting themselves, doubting their choices in lives, doubting who they are, doubting if they want to continue in life, those types of things. So that was important to me. And then also, like we were talking about before the podcast, as an actor, I've been in LA, in Hollywood, fighting to be an actor for 15 years. And I got to a point where I was just tired of begging for my supper. I was tired of doing these auditions and busting my ass and driving to Santa Monica during rush hour and sitting in traffic for 2 hours to get there. And you walk in and there's 200 dudes that look exactly like you for one role that has already been given to the casting director's cousin.
Right.
And you're like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard and nobody's going to let me in because I don't know this producer or I'm not related to that director. So I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? Fuck this process. Fuck learning all these lines for a character that I don't care about, that has no development, that isn't interesting, and a script that's dog shit. So I can be in the next remake of this movie from 1984.
Right.
Like, what am I doing? Fuck this. I want to make cinema. I came to LA to make cinema, to make stories that people care about, characters that people care about. Because I remember movies growing up that did that for me and evoked emotion like in you when you watch the movie, because it's real. I didn't write Topper and I didn't put the team together to make Topper based on, is this going to sell well in China?
Right.
Yeah.
Is this gonna do well in the theaters? I wrote it because it was a story that was important to me and a character that had a real arc and a real draw, and it was real stories about people that I felt like people could connect with, and I shot it that way, and luckily it's done very well. Like, as far as connecting with people, it's kind of jump started my career in the way that I wanted it to go.
Oh yeah.
My friend who's here, you guys can't see him. We connected through Topper, and he saw it and fell in love with it and fell in love with my vision as a filmmaker. And he's been my biggest cheerleader since. And through that, things have just, kind of snowballed. So, and Topper's been the vehicle for that so far. So I'm pretty excited about it.
I love hearing that story of getting into writing that way, because I have a similar story in that sense of like moving from something to trying to just write, right? So like I'm really interested in hearing like, what was that process like to start writing, or were you a writer before? Obviously you have comedy, so like maybe that's writing that helps, but how did that kind of work?
No, I wasn't a writer. I've been a cinephile since I was a kid.
Right.
I've watched thousands of movies. And just through watching movies, I kind of figured out how movies were structured. And coming into the industry, when I first came into LA, I would take these background jobs and I would literally never leave set. Like they would send us off to holding, and I would never leave set. I would sit and just watch how cameras were moved and how they set up shots and listened to the, the lingo and the way they talked. And I just literally never left set. And I was getting these background jobs, not because I needed the money. I did, I was broke, but because I wanted to see how it worked. And I learned from there. And then I just read script after script after script of scripts that I thought were brilliant and just kind of analyzed how they were structured, character development, story development, and kind of self-taught myself on how to do it. And just wrote and wrote and wrote until the point where I was like, okay, I kind of think I know what I'm doing at this point. And then just sent it out to people that I was blessed enough to come in contact with and ask them opinions,
Yeah.
and people that are like pretty big movers and shakers in Hollywood that I was lucky enough to meet and just say, hey, I know this probably sucks, but can you read this?
Give me notes.
And give me notes and tell me what sucks about it. And luckily everybody that I sent it to was like very honest, Yeah, and that's what I appreciated. I mean, I got a note one time about a script that I wrote. It was like a short story. And I sent it to, I don't want to say who I sent it to, very big showrunner, writer, producer guy. And he sent me back, and his only note was, write something else.
Oh, God.
I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, well, that was
That's constructive.
Yeah, that was 3 weeks of my life that I shouldn't have invested.
That's pretty
That
good.
is funny.
But I appreciated it. You know, it was like, it was honest, and he was right.
Yeah.
It was dog shit. Everybody that read it was like, cool, man. This, yeah, I mean, you should keep acting. And I was like,
Oh,
well,
damn.
cool.
But I mean, it's that same line. If you want to make a business, right? You might have an idea. It doesn't mean it's a good idea, right?
yeah, I mean,
It's the same thing in writing. It's all that. It's like if you're committed to it, yeah, you're probably going to go do it, and then you're going to realize, wow, I should have stopped, or should have had that. Should have sent the message to the one friend that was going to tell me the damn truth from the beginning. But
Yeah.
sometimes you need an extra pair of eyeballs. But yeah, man, it's sometimes we make good shit, and sometimes we make bad shit. It's just the way it goes.
I have this saying that I use, and I say, if you were going to fill up a pool on a hot day with my good ideas or my bad ideas, you want to go swimming in my bad ideas, because the pool is going to be there's going to be 2 inches of water in the good idea pool,
Right.
and 6 feet of water in the bad idea pool.
Right.
But the important thing is those bad ideas, just continuing to build on bad ideas is where the good ideas come from. It's like comedy. Half of the stuff that I write is dog shit, because you write something, you're like, oh, dude, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever written. Man, I can't wait to kill him with this washing machine bit. And I get on stage and people are like, no thanks. You're like, all right, well, that wasn't funny at all. I guess I got to go back and write a drier bit. You know, like fucking, people will tell you if your shit sucks. You just have to be man enough to like take that and be like, all right, well, I'll try something else.
Do you have a specific memory of like a specific joke that was kind of like that?
Oh, dude. Yeah. It's so brutal. I did this. So it was my first headlining show. And I had written this 10-minute bit about dog people versus cat people. And there was like maybe 30 seconds of the bit that was good. And that was like literally the last 30 seconds of the bit. And the other 9.5 minutes was just horrible. So I'm like doing this headlining gig, and it's in front of like 22 people at a casino in Bakersfield or some shit. And for 10 minutes, it was literally, I could hear people drinking through straws. And like in my head, I'm like, dude, this bit went so much better in my head. Like this shit kills on paper. And I got to the last 30 seconds and people like laughed. And it was almost like a laugh of like, oh, Jesus Christ, finally. And I was like, all right, thank you. Good night. And I went backstage and I went into my phone and I deleted everything in my joke notes. Not just that joke, everything. I was like,
shit.
oh, I need to start completely over. And comedy will humble you quick.
Oh, dude,
So
I'm
quick.
so afraid of getting up in front of a crowd and speaking like that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it takes
Can't
some guts,
imagine.
man.
I had a guy try to fight me over a bad joke once.
Who did?
Yeah. But it's all silly. Everything we believe is silly to someone. You know, like everything we're
Yeah.
talking about right now, there's going to be people that are going to be like, fuck yeah, man, I completely agree. I identify with everything Brock says. And then there's going to be somebody else who's going to be like, Brock is a complete and total fucking idiot.
Tell me your real thoughts, Kevin.
No, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like
No,
everybody, like no
Yeah,
matter
no,
what you
100%.
say, there's going to be somebody that's going to be like, that's the dumbest thing I've
That's
ever
life,
heard.
dude. No
Yeah,
matter,
the
no matter
internet.
what you do in life, you're never going to have 100% people like you.
No,
For sure.
And you
People have
shouldn't.
their own stuff. Yeah, exactly. They have their own stuff going on. They're all going through something, like whatever reason. Who cares, man? You can't live your life with expecting or seeking the validation of others, or you're going to be miserable all the
Bro,
time.
there's people that hate Jesus.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like the nicest dude ever.
He died
There's
for
like,
us.
fuck that guy.
Never even met him, dude.
Never even met him.
Oh yeah, you were nice to like whores and lepers. Fuck you, dude. It's like, wait,
That's
what?
wild, dude.
What are you mad about, bro?
Or the people that like believe in Satan or all that other stuff, but then they don't believe in God. I'm like, what do you?
Yeah, it's like,
Right.
hey,
How,
man.
how does that make any sense?
It's like, hey, call your dad. That's what
Yeah.
this is really about. Just call him. It's fine. Just call your dad.
Just forgive.
Just tell him you miss him.
Forgive. Yeah. There's a lot going on out there, man.
You play golf, dude?
Big golfer.
Hell yeah, man.
Big golfer.
What gave it away?
He's got a golf bobblehead.
Brock got that for me, actually.
Yeah. What's your handicap?
I'm like 10 or 12. I'm right around there. I can go up to a 14 if I don't play for a while, but I can also like shoot under 80 if I'm like playing consistently.
I didn't know what any of that meant. I know
You just
nothing
knew
about
the
golf.
handicap.
I just heard it. I heard it
Yeah.
on a golf podcast once.
Oh, you don't play
Someone
often,
out there will get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's going to be someone else that's going to be like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Who
you
cares
suck.
about golf? Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Dude,
Back to
golf
what
is
we're
great,
talking
man.
about.
I started golfing this year, and it's amazing.
You probably,
Yeah.
do you just hit the ball so far?
Bro, when he connects, he basically hits it as far as I do. When he connects.
Yeah, and that's
That was a kind of a humble brag right there, huh?
as
Because you're
far-
like twice his size.
But that's not.
No, he's been
a lot of
playing
the
his
pro
whole life.
golfers are like small.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more technique. It's all technique, right? It's all
Yeah.
like
The problem is
how
I
you hit
swing.
it.
I also swing too hard for the clubs I have, so they like bend and move in ways that make it almost impossible to hit the ball correctly. So I have to slow everything down.
no
Yeah.
joke. You need stiffer shafts.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what the girls say
Yeah.
about Brock, too. He needs a stiffer shaft.
It's the story of my life, man.
Golf problem too.
That's what you said. You got to tell people you can't have it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You
Can't
can't be
have it all.
you can't be good looking and have a stiff shaft.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's life.
Sometimes you got to bend it like Beckham. You know what I mean?
Hey, you know,
But yeah,
How does a podcast with three dudes always somehow revert to dick talk?
I think
It's
we joked
inevitable.
about that before you came over here, and I told you I was like, I bet you Kevin's going to bring something up like that. I bet you, and you did.
About your dick?
Yeah.
No, he did. I didn't.
No,
No.
I
But
brought up
you're
the
Well, I
shaft.
made it about your
Yeah,
dick, but
yeah.
you can't, dude. You can't say stiff shaft and not talk about a dick.
Where did it come from? It had to come from that.
Hey, Brock,
Man.
what size is that shirt?
I don't know. Does it look small? It's a double,
A little bit.
maybe a triple.
Yeah, your arms are big, dude.
They're not that big. They've been bigger.
All right. I didn't ask you to flex though. I was just
No, I wasn't.
making
I
a
was just
point.
feeling how tight it was. You're right. It's a little
I'm
tight.
repping my Niners. We got a big game coming
I'm
up this
really,
weekend.
you know, I'm from Detroit, right?
Oh shit! I didn't put that together. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like Jared Goff. Jared Goff's a buddy. So I'm like,
Oh, you're friends with Jared?
I'm like, it's gonna be a tough one for it because like you know,
Are you going to the game?
diehard Niners. The Super Bowl maybe if the Niners make it.
So you're not going to the game?
Not this game. Not this game.
No, the Super Bowl.
Yes,
Yeah.
potentially.
No, you didn't get that, did you?
No.
He
I said, "Are you going to the game?" And he said, "You said possibly the Super Bowl if
Right.
the Niners get in." And I said, "So you're not going to the
yeah,
game?"
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm catching up. I'm catching
Yeah,
up.
it's fine.
The so yeah, like if Jared does it, especially for the Lions, man, like you guys have been out of the playoff sphere for so long. Like I won't be like angry if the Lion. Well, I will for a little bit. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you're
it's
gonna be a
good
little,
story.
a little upset.
Yeah.
I'm believe it or not, I'm actually not a Lions fan though.
Why not?
I'm a Packers fan.
Oh, so you're mad at the Niners?
Yeah, I'm already
regardless.
mad. Yeah. I'm just hoping somebody beats you guys at this point.
yeah.
No,
Makes
my stepdad, the growing up, the abusive one, he was a diehard Lions fan. Which meant he absolutely hated the Packers, which meant I absolutely loved the Packers.
okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, it's so funny,
So
dude.
it was like, I was like, all right,
so
well, you can
real.
beat me up, but on game day, I will have the last laugh.
The Brett Favre jersey.
Exactly. Brett Favre. And then, yeah.
That must have been a lot of contention off that alone.
Oh, dude, I got punched so many times during football games.
Oh fuck.
So many times.
It's
Every
funny
time
we're
the
laughing
Packers
about
would
it, but
score,
it's
I'd be
like-
like, yeah. And you'd be like,
Oh, dude, I know the feeling, man. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. Good times, man.
I feel like I can genuinely laugh at that because I've been in those shoes. So
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
big, though. How big was your stepdad to be beating the shit out of
not step my real. Yeah.
you? Oh, your real dad.
Yeah, and he was a big boy, but he was like, I think he was 5'11", but he was like 350 pounds and always on
Oof.
steroids.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Big dude.
That's, yeah, because
And
you're,
an
what are you,
asshole.
6'5"? 6'6"?
Yeah, 6'7", 6'6".
6'6".
I shrank to 6'6" probably at this point.
My
I
brother.
thought you were 6'7", right?
Yeah. But when you're freaking 12 years old and you weigh 80 pounds, like,
Yeah,
it's a little different. It doesn't
Your
really,
stepdad's always bigger than you until he's not.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I got to have one of those moments with my dad. It's kind of weird to share, but I'm going to share it anyways. had a restraining order against him and ended up having to move in with him while I had a restraining order when I was 17. And I started lifting. Like I started really lifting when I was 15. And when I was at his house, I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. I couldn't go get food, couldn't see friends, couldn't do anything, but I was allowed to go to the gym because he didn't want us to be bitches, like a little bitch.
Yeah.
Well, I went to the gym, bro. Within 6 months, I put over 100 and something pounds on my bench press. And I just kept getting stronger and stronger. I was just, everything I had, I was just pushing in the gym just so I could like overpower this dude one day. And man, he got in my face one time. He got so pissed at me. And I'm 6'5" at this point, and I'm 17 years old. He's yelling up at me. He's huge. He's skinhead, tatted, just a total psychopath. And he was so mad that he was yelling up at me that he made me sit down, and ended up, I was just like, I'm so used to this dude. I was so over it. I wasn't paying attention to anything he was saying. He's just yelling. So he noticed that when I'm sitting on the ground and he's yelling at me, and starts swinging on me, just hitting me as much as he could. And I finally grabbed his wrists, and I don't know if you've ever played or done jujitsu or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the easiest things to get out of. You can break someone's thumb or like break out of it, and he couldn't get out. And I was not letting him go, man. I remember yelling into his face. Like, I was like, what does this solve? I was like, what does this solve? This doesn't fix anything.
At 17, you had
17.
You had
death
more.
Grip.
You had, but not even the death grip. But at 17, you had more emotional intellect than he did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was my moment, though, where I told him I was not going to let go until he swore he wasn't going to hit me again. And so finally, we got to the point where we broke apart, and that was that. But I think so many guys don't get that moment where you want to like fight your dad and be the alpha and heal and fix that part of it until later on in life. Terry Crews is one of them, right? Where you get that later on. But I got it at 17, and I earned it because I worked my ass off. But it changed something in me, dude. In that moment, I didn't have to wait till I was 40 years old to be like, oh, I'm putting this to the past. It's like I was 17 and I had actual control in my life for the first time. And it was like eye-opening. It was life-changing.
I can imagine 17-year-old Brock after that.
Oh, dude.
Like he's just walking through the kitchen,
dude,
knowing that he could wipe the floor with his dad. And he's like, hand me the Cheerios, pussy.
Well, he pulled a gun on me about a week later, so it wasn't that fun. It wasn't that great of a moment.
Oh, he pussed out.
Yeah. But I remember we were in high school, and they did a bench press competition for all the football players, and this one kid was on crazy steroids. They're like, if he does these for another year, he's gonna die. He's a senior at the school, like, and just acne everywhere, just crazy. He went up and he bench pressed 225 6 times, and then the coach did the same thing. That's the most that anybody. And this is a 40-year-old man, right?
Yeah.
I've been working out so much, dude. I went up and I hit 225 26 times at 17, and I had no like.
That's straight up NFL shit, dude.
That's
like
17,
good NFL shit.
Dude, I still can't do 225. I can't do
it's a lot,
225 like 6 times right now.
Oh, really?
I did it 3 times when
That's-
I was
dude,
like
that's
in
good weight.
football shape.
That is good
But,
weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I'm hitting right now is like 275 for 22.
I didn't start working out until I was 26.
Really?
Yeah. I was 305 pounds.
Damn.
And I was like, you know
That's
what?
awesome.
My New Year's resolution for 2006, and it was just before I moved to LA, I was like, I want to have a 6-pack by March. And I lost 115 pounds in 3 months.
That's badass.
Wow.
No stretch marks, no loose skin, no nothing. I had a 6-pack by March. I was like,
How good did that
I was
feel?
like, yeah. I
Dude.
was like, I'm about to kill these bitches, right? And then I moved to LA, and they were like, no thanks, you're broke. And I was like, I should have stayed in Detroit. At least I was good looking in Detroit.
Oh,
In LA,
man.
I was like average in broke. In Detroit, I was like good looking. Like in Detroit, I was a Detroit 9. And then I moved to LA, and I was like a LA 6. I was like, this sucks.
That's
not all it's cracked
really
up to be.
impressive, though. What was like the secret to that? Literally just working out?
I just got in the gym like 3.5 hours a day, and I ate every 3 hours, and I ate like no carbs. I just
Right.
ate
Wow.
straight protein, and it just kind of fell off.
Hell yeah.
Weird. Then I got to a point where I was 6'5", 185 pounds, and I was like, I should probably stop losing weight. Like, I
Right.
looked like I was dying.
Well, that's
Right.
that's funny
Yeah.
because that's what I weighed when I did the 225.
You weighed 185.
You
This
I
whole
had-
episode is just a way for Brock to humble brag.
I'm not even no, but it's funny, bro. But I'm only saying this because I was
185, but I was bench pressing 225
No.
like 26 times or whatever.
It's not even.
And then I beat my dad up.
Yeah.
And,
Life is good, dude. You're right. No, for me though, I only say it's funny because I had the opposite where I was 135 pounds at 6'3" when I started working out, and I worked so fucking hard every day for years to get to 185, dude. Like it was took everything in me, and then finally when I was 19, I like really figured out how to put on weight because pizza and soda.
Yeah.
That was pretty much what did it for me. But it's dude, getting to that, I was still a beanpole, dude.
well, you know what's interesting with guys like you, and we haven't really talked about your upbringing, but you said that your dad gifted you all this amazing artwork. So I'm going to go on a limb and say he's a pretty cool guy. But what's interesting about guys like you is that experience with your father gave you the work ethic that you have now that has given you the ability to be successful, right? And there's something that I say about trauma. You can either use it as an excuse to be a piece of shit and to continue that track of life and to continue that behavior, or you can use it as motivation. And that says a lot about you as a person. And it's also the same on the other side of things. When you have a family life where your parents give you everything, you can use that as motivation to be like, okay, I'm going to earn this.
Right.
Or you can use it as an excuse to be like, well, I was given everything in my life, so I deserve it. So I'm going to be a piece of shit and a brat and expect it.
Yep.
But it says a lot about like you as a person and you as a person, that you take those those factors as motivation and not as an excuse. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have in society right now is everybody uses everything as an excuse. You know, oh, there's racism in the world, so I can go out and burn down a Starbucks. Or my dad beat me up when I was a kid, so now I'm going to go out and take that out on everybody.
Right.
It's all about who you are when everything is kind of peeled away. When you're alone at night, do you sit there and say, "Oh, the world hates me. It's the world's fault," or do you say, "I'm going to change my world"? So guys like you, it says a lot about you as a person that you just go out and you just do the work and get the job done and don't complain about it. And that's what shit used to be.
Yeah.
I 100%. And, I literally was having this conversation with my girlfriend the other night. It was essentially just about work ethic and, essentially as a man, there's something innately inside of you where if you can't protect, provide, and achieve, you just don't feel like yourself or a man, right? And it's like whatever's given to you, it almost, it matters, obviously, but it's also where is that fulfillment? Where is that happiness coming from? If you're not achieving, if you're not working, if you're not helping the world in some way, doing philanthropy, getting, helping others. But yeah, it's strange we were talking about it because I literally just the other night was talking with my girl about it.
Yeah, I think that's important for a man to feel accomplishment, because if you don't feel like you have anything to offer anybody.
Yep.
It's like with me, I'm 44 years old. I'm still single, never been married, no kids. And people are always like, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? And I'm like, I don't feel like I have accomplished the things that I feel like I need to accomplish to earn those types of things. And I think that's the biggest issue, is that people just think that's what you do. And it's like, sure, but that's also why divorce rates are so high.
Yep.
That's also why, fatherless households are, the rate of fatherless households are so high. It's because people just go, oh, well, it's not, they don't look at it as something that you should aspire to. They're like, yeah, you can have a kid. Sure. Have a kid. You can get married 4 or 5 times. Who cares? You can always get a divorce if you're not happy. If you hold that to a higher regard and you hold yourself to a higher regard, I think that you'd have a lot less backtracking on people's lives and how much it affects people.
100%. I think getting into something for the wrong reasons just leads to terrible shit down the way.
Yeah, I got this quote that I've loved. I remember the first time I saw it, and it's if you want to change the world, you have to first change yourself. And I think what you're saying is going to resonate with so many people, resonates with me. And there's just so much going on in the world. And so when you say like people they're kind of not, they're using excuses, right? They're not really facing themselves, facing their trauma, their pain, dealing with it. They're projecting all this stuff and taking it out on the world instead of looking inward and saying, for me, what I think would help heal is if people could learn to love themselves. If you could learn to forgive yourself, forgive others around you, love yourself, and have gratitude throughout your entire life. Like, dude, I've been through some shit. We've all been through some shit. I'm grateful for everything that happened. Do I wish it all happened? No, it sucked. But am I grateful? Yeah, because guess what? It made me who I am. It made me think the way that I do. It made me show up in the world the way I do. It made me grow. It forced me to change and switch the way that I viewed the world and the interactions I have with people. Like, I wouldn't trade that for anything because I'm grateful for that. And I've had some of the best conversations. I have some of the greatest friendships in the world. Like, I'm grateful for that. And if you can take pain and turn it into purpose, or turn it into power, like, and empower yourself through that, you can do anything.
And those are big ideas. People act so nonchalantly in life. They take these big ideas and they whittle them down to just, what's happening at the moment. But they're really big ideas. And myself right now, I struggle with imposter syndrome. I struggle with believing that I'm worthy or that I'm good enough. And until I get that figured out, until I can get to a point where I feel like I'm deserving of love and deserving of success, bringing somebody else into that is just setting myself and them up for failure, because I don't love myself in the way that I need to love myself to love somebody else. And if I can't love myself, I can't accept love.
Right.
And that's frustrating for somebody who's not in that position. So I'm struggling with that now. I have to do a daily affirmation now in the morning to just like myself.
Right.
So until I get to a point where I can really value myself, I don't need to bring anybody else into that mix. And I think a lot of people kind of really need to think about that.
But that's also a testament to your character. And that's also a testament to what you've been through and you not wanting to put that on somebody else, right? Like, but that self-awareness alone is so valuable, because there are many people out there that have those same thoughts and feelings, but not an understanding of why they're feeling it. So the fact that you have that, at least you have the ability to know that it's there and to address it, and you know what you need to work on, what you need to focus on. And for me, it's always been, what's the root? Where does all of it come from? And how do we get to the root cause, the reason of it? And how do I heal that? How do I fix that? How do I change that? How do I rewire my brain so that doesn't affect me anymore, right? And it's not an easy road to go on. And it's, no matter how many times you try something, it doesn't mean it's going to work out and be in your favor, but you can't stop, you know?
Right.
And you do deserve those things. We all deserve those things. And that's where, when we get into the mindset of, I am good enough, I am worthy just because I exist, I might have been told and treated shitty my whole life and had it beat into me that I'm not worth shit, and I don't deserve love and whatever else, but that's not the truth. It's not the truth. Just because that was your experience early on, that doesn't mean it's your truth.
Yeah. And I think that's what's important about focusing on men's mental health, especially nowadays, because this is probably the only time, I think, in history, societally at least, that men can express their emotions. Because throughout life, people think they when you start talking about society, people, oh, the patriarchy, this, and toxic masculinity, that. For all of history, men have been told, put your fucking head down, do the work, shut the fuck up, kill yourself for your family, hunt, build. We don't want to hear about, go to war. We don't want to hear about your emotions. Go to war, kill people, experience incredibly traumatic experiences, and then come home and shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah.
And now is the first time where men can go, hey man, I'm not okay. You know, I don't need to always fucking just go to work and bust my ass, and I die sooner than, you know, men die sooner than women because of the amount of stress that's put on them to just be a provider and all these things, which is why a lot of men run away from their responsibilities of children and you know, and marriage and those things. So I think it's important to really talk about those things and to break down the barriers of men being able to be open and vulnerable, like you have been today, like I have been today, like you have been today. I think it's important. And I think that in the long run, that's one of the great things that have come out of kind of the way that society has kind of broken things down now. But it's important for, while we are able to allow men to do those things, that we allow men to still be men at the same time.
It's very well said. And I totally agree. And, you know, if all you're looking at is suicide rates, it's literally like 60% of all suicides are men, and specifically white men, but men. It's overwhelming, and we're not addressing it. You know, no one's addressing it.
No, we're not addressing it, and society is feeding into it.
Yeah.
You know, of the idea of straight white male being the devil, and and you know, those ideals of toxic masculinity and all of those things. I think at some point, you're towing a dangerous line, because you're alienating a large group of people, and you're telling them that they're bad just for being, which is the very definition of ageism, racism, all of those things. So if if we continue down that path, you're kind of backing people into a corner, and that's when bad things happen. So I think it's important to have conversations like this, so that men who may feel just, you know, who may feel backed into a corner, who may feel disenchanted with what's going on in the world, can kind of go, oh, there's other people that feel the way that I feel. I'm not in a bubble, and I can talk about it. I think that's important. I think it's very important. What did we learn today?
We learned that we like you. You're a good dude.
Oh, man.
You're an all right dude, you know?
Oh, man. That'll be good for my affirmations tomorrow morning. People like me.
You're not alone in your own bubble.
Well, we learned that Brock is too good looking to be as intelligent and emotionally available as he is. I need you to reel that shit in.
I'm gonna go jump off that cliff over there.
No, don't do that. But just, you know, like, just, you know, stare out into the space and flex. You know, that's what you're meant to do. And we learned that you're a good golfer, and that you hit the ball further than you should for your height and body mass, and that's important.
Yeah.
And that you have poor choices in sports teams.
Yep.
We learned that about you. And that you're also very intelligent. And you're a good looking guy. You're a good looking dude.
Hey, you know, I appreciate that.
But like it's kind of like when you, I don't know if you should be on the same side of the table as Brock, because you by comparison and all.
Damn.
I deal with it all the time.
Damn. Yeah. That's why I sat over here. You know, you don't want to have two specimens on one side of the table. You know what I mean, guys?
Got to balance it out.
Yeah. And we learned that I'm kind of gay. So that's cool. Guys over there behind the computer are laughing at that. I don't know why you guys think that's funny.
Why is that funny, guys? Is that funny?
Yeah, guys.
Spencer?
Yeah. Oh, they don't have a mic, huh?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's right. I like how you could just kind of make them like push buttons and shit over there, but you don't give them a mic so they can voice their opinions at all.
Sometimes Spencer usually has a mic,
but then he started voicing his opinions. So
Spencer's got a good head of hair on him, huh? How old are you, Spencer?
I'll be 30 next month.
Yeah, man. I remember when I was going to be 30 next month. That was a cool time in my life. I had hair like that. That was cool.
Yeah,
I was a little taller, you know, but good head of hair on you, Spencer. Nobody can see Spencer. This is part of the podcast where I get to a point where I don't know what else to talk
Yeah,
about.
no, we're there.
What?
What's
Well,
that?
I would love to talk more about the comedy stuff too. Like, what do you have any tours coming up or anything like that, or what do you got going on there?
Yeah, so I'm in the process right now of switching up management, and I'm planning on putting a tour together this year. I'm kind of hyper focused on filmmaking right now,
Okay.
and that takes up a lot of my time. But I perform around LA quite a bit, and then I'm looking at probably in the next couple of months putting together a tour to go around the country and do stand up. So
Very cool.
You still get nervous, or do you get nervous when you go on stage?
no, man, I don't.
No?
It's weird.
Never have?
No,
That's
it's
awesome.
weird.
That takes balls.
I fell into comedy. It wasn't even supposed to be a thing.
How'd that happen?
A dare.
A dare.
Yeah.
Where like you're at a bar and there's an open mic and someone dared you to go
No,
up, or how'd
my buddy was hosting a show, and he invited me, and I was like, I'll go to support me and my other buddy. My other buddy's from New York, and I'm from Detroit. So he and I are just naturally ball busters.
Right.
So we went to the show, and my buddy was hosting, and he still does comedy. He's gonna know who, if he listens to this, he knows who he is, but nobody else does. But he's still terrible. And sorry, dude. And he was hosting this show, and I went, and so he did like an 8-minute spot at the beginning of the show, crickets, and then and then he would go up between each comic, and then he would like do like 30 seconds of like a riff of something they talked about or whatever.
Right.
And he's bad. And so every time he'd come back to the table, I'd be like, dude, you're fucking bad at this. And he's like, it's not easy. And I'm like, it can't be as hard as you're making it look. This is bad. And he was like, you think it's easy? And I'm like, no. And he's like, I'll give you 3 minutes. Go up and do stand up. And I was like, I'm not a comic. And he's like, if you make them laugh once, I'll give you $100. And I was like, $100. He's like, yeah. I'm like, put the money on the table. So he put the money on the table. And I went up, and I just told the 2 stories about the 2 times I got stabbed.
Oh God.
Laugh number one.
Yeah. And the audience was like laughing their asses off. And so I get off stage, and I grab the $100. I was like, that was easy. And he's like, what the fuck? And I was like, you should get stabbed. It's kind of a wealth of laughs. So then I just like kind of got the bug, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this. Just kind of started going. I literally was doing like 4 or 5 open mics a night,
Oh wow.
and just kind of went around LA and figured it out, and it became a thing.
That was,
And-
so you said you've been in LA for 15 years or no?
16 years now.
So how long ago did you start?
Stand up?
Stand up, yeah.
5 years ago.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. I haven't
Oh
been doing
damn.
it long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Was
haven't been doing
there
it
like
long.
a high, like getting up there and doing it?
Yeah, man. There's something about when people laugh. It kind of like validates you as a person. Like for me, like if I get up on stage and I can just make people laugh, I'm like, I feel like I'm worth something. It's like, oh yeah, I do have something, you know?
Yeah.
Because like when you make a movie, any filmmaker will tell you, like, you write it and then you send it out and you hope people like it, and then they're like, yeah, it's cool, and then you get the money to make it, and then you do all the pre-production, then you shoot it, and then you go into post-production, and you don't get any validation for this thing that you created for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like, I hope people like it when it comes out. Stand-up's nothing like that. I can write a joke at 3:00 in the afternoon and be on stage at 8:00 and tell the joke, and I have instant verification whether it's funny or not,
Right.
which is fucking great.
Yeah.
If I could do that with movies, it'd be fucking amazing. Just like write a movie, then go on stage and just read a script,
Yeah.
and people are just like, kind of dog shit. I'd be like, all right, well, that's cool. But that's how stand-up is. Like, I'm literally putting my thoughts onto a piece of paper. I go on stage and people go yes or no. It's kind of like, it's like the Coliseum for ideas. It's either a
Right.
thumbs up or a thumbs down, and I'm either getting eaten by a lion or I'm getting a steak.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. It's fucking awesome.
I
But
love that.
I've got a bunch of friends who are filmmakers, writers, everything, and they'll take real life moments that I've seen happen and put them in their films. Do you do that with your comedy, with your life, or anything like that, or is that something you're going to want
Oh
to do?
yeah. Oh yeah. I my family hates me because I talk about all of our shit on stage.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you know, I talk about my brother still to this day hasn't forgiven me because I talked about the fact that he had bitch tits. He did-
Was he working at Starbucks?
Yeah, he just did too much trend and he got bitch tits.
Oh damn!
But because he's 6'6", 265.
That's
But
a-
yeah, he
that's a
got
big dude.
yeah, he got tits. Yeah.
He just didn't
That's what
forgive
happens
you.
when you
And
mess
it,
with
but it
this
was
stuff.
just one tit. He had one tit. Like one was
That's crazy.
like one big tit and then one
Yeah.
normal tit. I called him Biggie Smalls
Oh,
for like
God.
a year.
Oh, I man, this is messed up. I had a buddy who he did that. He messed with steroids. I don't know what he did, but he had one and it like pointed out, and we'd go to the beach and he'd always like
Wrap it?
move it around to try and like hide it or whatever. I'm like, bro, you can't hide it, man. Like it's not going
Hey,
anywhere.
dude, wear a shirt.
Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And now here we are.
He's always got a shoulder holster on for
yeah.
no reason.
Just crazy.
Bro, why do you wear a shoulder holster with no gun? Don't worry
Sling.
about it, dude.
Oh man,
Trying to hide my tit.
We'll tape, fix
Yeah,
it right up.
that's wild, man. That's
Yeah.
what happens when you mess with that stuff.
Yeah, man. He went bald at 26. Like the whole thing. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you get to make fun of him.
Yeah. So I just,
With
when I
his-
go home for Christmas, I don't put any product in my hair. I just let it hang down in my eyes.
Just look at all this.
Yeah. I just walk around with my normal chest. Yeah. It's pretty great, man.
Damn.
It's pretty great.
So he might have had the height and the size, but it sounds like
Yeah. I'm the older brother. You can't
Yeah, you
get
gotta do
bigger
that.
than me. That's not how that works.
see, I don't have that. Both my brothers are much smaller than me, and I love them to death. But I don't have that, man.
Yeah.
Is that weird? You got to look up just a little bit.
To my brother?
You guys are pretty eye to eye, then, right? You're 6.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, no matter how big he gets, I will kick the shit out of him. So
That's
I
a
don't-
big brother right
yeah,
there.
I don't
That's
really
like- yeah.
concern myself with any of that. He will beat me at arm wrestling though. He's stupid strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's you know, he's got that spectrum strength, you know.
Yeah.
You got a touch of the tism or something. Yeah. You know what's
Right.
cool is being an uncle. Are you an
Yeah,
uncle?
I just became an uncle.
It's
Actually.
cool, right?
My big
Are you an
bro
uncle?
just had
Yeah,
a.
man.
It's cool, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Dude, all the shit my little brother put me through, like having to babysit him. I get it all back. I get it all back. Oh, dude, I bought my nephew a BB gun.
Nice.
Yeah, I bought him a BB gun, and then
Get him a drum set.
and
Yeah. There you go.
and I put so much candy in. I give him so much candy when I see him, and I'm just like, dude, you got a lot of cats and birds in your neighborhood, man, and I amp them up.
Yeah. You get them all psyched up.
Just
Like
sugar in a
candy.
BB gun, dude.
It's
Oh
the
man,
fucking best. My brother's like, "What are you doing?"
I did that. My nephews were like 2 and 4 or something like that, and I took them to Disneyland. I had no idea what sugar does to a kid until I took 2 little
Oh
boys
yeah.
Oh, dude, it's
to
great.
Disneyland, bro. It's like it is wild.
Yeah.
but it's the best.
Yeah, man. I get them all hopped up on sugar and then I drop them off. It's the best. It's the best.
Love you, bro.
When I bought my nephew the BB gun, I was like, hey man, one of your dad's boobs is bigger than it should be. Just saying, probably just needs to be drained. And then I just handed him a BB gun. Dude. My brother calls me one day and he's like, my son just shot me in the tit. I'm gonna be like, hell yeah.
You're waiting for it. Waiting for the
plan,
call.
my plan has come to fruition.
The scheme.
Oh man,
Yeah, man. My family's cool. Like my mom's the shit. Like I talked about missing masculine energy growing up, but my mom is masculine enough for like me and Brock put together. Like my mom,
Hell yeah.
everywhere she goes, 2 guns on her at all times. I watched her pistol whip a guy in a Target parking lot once because
damn.
he almost hit me with his car. And he called her a bitch.
Oh,
She was
fuck
like,
yeah.
I got your bitch. And she pistol whipped him apart. Bro, my mom is amazing. I almost called my mom a bitch one time and she 300 kicked me down a flight of stairs.
For almost doing it.
I got to B. I didn't even finish it. I was like,
She's
why
like,
are you being such a
bye-bye.
bitch? And she was like, this is Sparta.
That's amazing.
Oh,
When was
my
the last
God.
time? Yeah, dude, she's awesome.
Oh man.
She's the coolest person in the world.
Yeah, brother. Well,
Yeah, man.
we got to do something together at some point. We're gonna make some.
Dude, I have a
Some
skit
art
for
together.
us.
Oh, skit. Yeah.
Oh,
The one you mentioned at Taryn's birthday.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The crowd's not gonna know what the fuck we're talking about.
Yeah.
You
We'll-
don't even
we'll-
know. What
I
we're
don't
talking
even know.
about.
No, yeah. But you'll want to get on this. Well,
It's
I'm
really
in.
funny, dude. It's really funny.
appreciate you coming on, brother. Is there anything else? What do you got in the pipeline, or anything you want to plug? Or
You can follow me on Instagram at Kevin Mac. That's KevinMac.
if you scroll far enough, you will find him naked in front of a motorcycle.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, that's awesome, bro. Yeah, Kevin Mac, and check. Well, is your movie Topper out yet?
No, not yet.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
it'll be coming out.
Great cast, by the way.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
I'm really proud of it, man. I think the cast killed it. I was very lucky to get the quality of actors that I got, and people seem to like it. So
Yeah, man. We'll keep it going.
onward and upward.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching the Studio 22 podcast. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And of course, hit that notification bell, because if you don't, YouTube doesn't have us on the top side of the algorithm. Also, make sure that you watch out for our merch, because it's coming soon. Also, Brock has a very soft shaft. Have a good day.
Thank you for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow our socials at Studio 22 Podcast.